Hi TCA families, this is Jessica Hackinson here at Coastal Academy. I'm a reading specialist here, and I'm walking through Explode the Code and what we can do with Explode the Code to really teach our kids phonics well. I'm going to start here in Book 3. In Book 3, it is assumed that students can decode words with all of the short vowels, and now we're ready to start adding long vowel patterns, including the silent E. And also it's going to continue with consonant digraphs, which are combinations of sounds that sort of get muffled together. We hear them often as one sound. And so I'm going to walk through a lesson. We're going to talk about Lesson 4 in Book 3. Of course, this is my teacher's guide. It's going to cover Books 3 and 4. I'm starting with Book 3, Lesson 4. And we'll walk through the components here. The first bit here is the quick review. You want to make sure not to skip the quick review. This is a good opportunity. It's only a minute or two of a review to just make sure that they have the underlying skills they need in order to take on that new information. In this case, you also need to remember that the quick review is written for a classroom of kids, but it's even better for one-on-one. So just go ahead and adjust as you need to. In this one, it says, who remembers the rule for silent E? So just say, tell me the rule for silent E. And just hear what they can come up with on their own and maybe correct anything that's not quite right, okay? And in this activity, what you're going to do is you're going to start, it's all written in here, but you're going to start by writing the word spin, and then you're going to ask them, what is spin without the s? And they should be able to identify that that is pin. And then you're going to get even more crazy here, and you're going to add the silent E at the end, and they should be able to recognize that that is pine. And this is a really important skill, so make sure that you go ahead and continue with this. If they haven't mastered it on the first try, no big deal. Just repeat that. Do a couple of words a day until you feel like that is automatic and mastered. The next section is phonemic awareness. Again, this is just a minute or two. Phonemic awareness is something that you can do in the dark with no access to letters or print. This should be done all in their head and in their ears. Okay, so it's going to say, we're going to work on adding and deleting sounds in this activity. So for example, add s to Kate. What is the word that you get? And your students should be able to say skate. If they can't, then go ahead and break it down for them. So s, Kate, and really blend it together until their ears get comfortable hearing it. If they fly through this, great, just do it once and move on. If they struggle a little bit, feel free to take your time and repeat this as much as needed in order to get that skill. That is quick review and phonemic awareness. That's the beginning of your teaching. Again, that's only found in the teacher's guide. It is not in the student edition, so you want to make sure that you start your teaching from here. Okay? The next section is the actual phonics instruction, which does correlate to the student book. And so I'm going to go ahead and pull out the student book at this point. This is Book 3 of Explode the Code. I am on Lesson 4, which starts on page 28. In the teacher's guide, it will reference the Explode the Code cards or the wall chart. You really don't need those. You can use this first work page in the lesson to be your visuals and your guide. I would use this first page as your direct instruction. So what I mean by that is that you're going to talk through the first several examples here. You're going to say, what sounds do we hear at the beginning of flame? And you can even ask them too, what do we suppose this picture is? What is the arrow pointing to? Oh, that's a flame. What sounds do we hear at the beginning of flame? Which letters match, which word matches here? Which has all the sounds? And if you recall, in Book 2, they covered some of the initial blends. And so this is really adding a layer onto that where they're talking about initial blends and the silent E combined. Okay, so this is really great instruction. Walk through this with your student. This probably is not the point where I would let them be independent. If they're flying through it, they totally get it. Go ahead and move on. Maybe skip a page or two and move on to something where they have to read and write. In this activity, they have to identify all of the sounds and all of the correct spellings that match that to match the picture. So we're looking at a stone here. I don't know if you can see that in TV land, but here's a stone, and they want you to identify st, o, n, and then write that on the line. I would go ahead and start by doing the first couple with your student to make sure that they're really getting the concept and not just filling out words. And then if they're getting it, gradually release them, let them become independent. If they're doing well, you can skip a page and move on to the end, where there's an activity here where they just have a picture and they're expected to just write the word. If they can do that, then you are done with this lesson. Go ahead and move on. If they can't, if they're struggling at any point, then go ahead and do more practice with them. But the idea is be with them at first and then gradually release to where they are comfortable and they can do things independently. I did want to tell you, in any of these activities where there's a word bank, if you're finding that this is too simple and you want to really make sure they've got it, you can cover up the word banks. That makes it a more challenging activity. If you're also looking for other extensions or challenges, you can go back to your teacher's guide and look at the fluency, comprehension, writing, and differentiated instruction activities. Those components of literacy are really included in our TCA Language Arts program, so we don't spend a lot of time on those with Explode the Code. But if you're looking for a challenge, or if your student is struggling with something and you need a different way to teach it, those are found in the teacher's guide, and you can find some suggestions there. Book 3, I would say, is extremely important. There's a lot of really important skills that happen in Book 3, and so Book 3 and also Book 4 in Explode the Code are books that I would just suggest nobody should skip those. They're just really important. So stay tuned. There's going to be another video on perhaps my favorite book, Explode the Code Book 4.